Joining us now live from Los Angeles is Steven Gregory, who is the entertainment reporter for KFL. And thank you for your time, Steven.
Chris, it's always a pleasure.
This is news that is rocking Hollywood right now. This is something we didn't see coming, although we do know that he was suffering depression for many years, don't we, Steven?
Well, the thing about this, Chris, is that he had been going into rehab, in and out of rehab for years, and he'd been battling sobriety and drug issues for almost 2 decades, and he's been very open about it. So one would think that with him being so open about it and voluntarily going in and out of rehab and getting the help that he desperately needed, that you would think he wouldn't have taken this path to attempted suicide, to apparent suicide, and so you kind of makes you pause and wonder what was really going through his mind, and the fact that it was by asphyxiation and not even drugs or alcohol. So it kind of begs the question as, how committed was he to doing this, or if it was asphyxiation, was he sort of doing it in hopes of getting found or making a plea for help? And those are some of the mysteries that we're not going to know.
At the moment, we do know that it is a suspected suicide, don't we?
Well, yeah, they're treating it right now as a suspected suicide, according to the sheriff's office. And this is in an unincorporated area north of San Francisco, Marin County, a very posh and sort of very posh area north of San Francisco. Marin County is where a lot of wineries are at. This is where a lot of Lucasfilm, if you will, George Lucas's Skywalker Ranch is up there. It does a lot of editing for films and special effects. So this is a very nice area, and it was in an unincorporated area, which pretty much means a remote area of Marin County.
Steven, do you think the microscope will now go on Hollywood, the entertainment industry, to see if they, as an industry as a whole, did enough for this man who was battling so much in his life?
Well, typically what happens on something like this, Chris, is that I can tell you right now what's happening. I'm actually just outside of Hollywood, and I can tell you right now people are starting to gather at Robin Williams' star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That's first and foremost. That's where people immediately go to grieve. If the actor or entertainer has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, they go there first. They start to reflect. Then immediately now, with the advent of social media, celebrities are going to start, if not already, giving their reaction and talking about it. And it's been an interesting catharsis, because now more and more celebrities start to really self-reflect on what's going on in their own world and in their own lives. And I noticed that every time something like this happens tragically, that they all really start to pause and say, could I be the next person? Could I be the next one that slumps into this depression? And so many, as you know, so many talented entertainers like Robin Williams, so many highly creative people tend to have issues like that, according to, a lot of doctors. They say a lot of these highly creative types do have some sort of struggle with depression and are very lonely people. And I know a lot of comedians here in Hollywood, very well-known comedians, that battle depression or they battle insecurity issues. So it's going to be one of these things where everyone's going to stop and take a look at themselves.
The irony of all of this, Steven, and I think you pick up an interesting point, that although people can be incredibly famous in Hollywood, they can still live incredibly lonely lives. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think you have to go back again to sort of the psyche of the creative person. And, in talking to someone as famous as Dr. Drew, for instance, Dr. Drew Pinsky from CNN, and he talks a lot about, he did the only study ever done about narcissism and about, the celebrity and narcissism. And he was using a lot of actors and comedians as case studies, and talks a lot about the fact that someone who's so highly creative and so out there and so outgoing and boisterous, in reality, what they want to do is shelter themselves from the real world. They want to entertain and they want to be accepted and loved, but in reality, they built this shell around themselves for whatever reason, and whatever the psychosis is behind it. But so many of them are like that out here, and a lot of the celebrities that I interview or talk with that are so down to earth and so low key, but their persona on stage or on film is complete opposite. We see that more and more here in Hollywood.
How big a loss will his death be for Hollywood? Because he had the ability to transcend different genes, didn't he? I mean, he was not just a comedian. He made a lot of films of a rather dark nature.
Right. I mean, here's the thing. He was one of those guys that never really was controversial. Of course, he was battling his own addiction, and it's something that he was very open about. So he wasn't really much of a target with respect to bad press or anything like that. I mean, the guy really owned up to his issues and his problems, tried to get help. But as far as a loss to the community itself, he was a nice guy. The guy was a really friendly person. I'd interviewed him a couple times. I mean, he was well liked by everyone. He wasn't a very political person. He made some statements, or he would take some stands on some things, but it never really caused him much grief or controversy. And, there was a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for him. He had just gotten that new television series, the new comedy. It didn't really rate too well, but it was good to see him back into the mainstream again. He had never really done a series since Mork and Mindy, decades ago. But, it was good to see him back in the mainstream. He was, again, well-liked by everybody and well-respected. And it's going to be a loss not only personally, but professionally in this industry. It's going to be a huge loss.
Stephen, when you interviewed him, was the persona, the on-screen persona, in your view, the same as off-screen? What did you take away from your interviews with Robin Williams?
Well, I'll tell you something. He's on. He's always on. The guy is always on. And when you try to talk to him a little bit, and in these press junkets and these press, red carpet situations, you have such limited time with the guy or with any of these celebrities that you really have to make the best of your few minutes with them. And since he was promoting things at the time, you got to get right to the heart of the issue. So I didn't get much of a chance to really get to inside of him personally, but I could tell by his initial approach. When he walks into the room, I stand up and I say, "Hi, Robin, it's really nice to meet you. I'm Steve Gregory." And he's very genuine, and I got a good vibe from him. His handshake was firm. He just was such a nice guy. I just got a really comfortable vibe with him. Plus, being a fan all these years, you kind of geek out a little bit, and you're thinking, I'm sitting with an icon, an acting and comedic icon, and then we sit down and we talk a little bit about the film. We talk about his role in the film. He starts to laugh. Then he starts getting into character and back and forth, and then before you know it, time's up, and we got to move on to the next person. So I can only tell you that from my initial handshake with the guy, my initial vibe from him is that he was a genuine, warm individual.
Steven Gregory, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Chris. Anytime.
Thank you. That is Steven Gregory, everybody, the entertainment reporter for KFI Los Angeles.